All right. That seems to be okay. I think we're all right. Hello, everyone. I think we're ready to go with another Workshop Wednesday, a different one than usual, because this time I'm in the kitchen, as you can see, and I'm going to be making some mug brownies. So a brownie in a mug. I'm going to try out one or two recipes that I found online, at least one, and we'll see how they are. And we're just gonna, throw these together and see what happens. Hopefully, it will be okay. So we're gonna put together a few ingredients here. We've got 4 tablespoons of flour, 4 tablespoons of sugar, 2 tablespoons of cocoa powder, 2 tablespoons vegetable oil, and 2 tablespoons of water with a dash of salt. Let's find out. And when I've done this before, I've used these tall mugs. And I'm a little worried about that because in the past I've had problems with this. And I think it might be because the mug is sort of very tall. It may be better if it's wider. But unfortunately, I don't really have. I have some other sort of general mug-sized mugs, but I don't have a mug collection. So I'm just going to go ahead and try this with this mug, which is more standard size, a nice Siberian Husky mug. And we'll see what happens. So, let's find out. So the recipe again calls for 4 tablespoons flour, 4 tablespoons sugar. Do that. Make a pretty normal dough. Let's go ahead and take a look at our counter here. There we go. Sorry, we're jiggling around quite a bit. So we're going to grab 4 tablespoons of flour, and I'm eyeing that to make sure it's fairly even. There's that. 4 tablespoons of sugar. Definitely wipe this out. I certainly don't want to mix flour and sugar, so I'm just rinsing and drying that between each one, between each ingredient. There's one clump there. 2, 3, and 4. That's a lot. I'm already up to this big on my mug. I'm a little worried. Then we need 2 tablespoons cocoa powder. Again, let's rinse that off. Keep that nice and dry, otherwise the cocoa powder will clump up. There's 1 and 2. And then a pinch of salt. Everything's improved by some salt. Point. And I think the recipe says we mix that, then we add the oil and water. Makes sense. So I'm going to grab a fork. The fork has tines. If I just use a spoon, the spoon's going to go down in there and be a giant, blunt instrument. Whereas the tines of the fork can actually get in there and mix this nicely. And from what I can tell, I really want to mix this very thoroughly, both in this step and also when we get to the wet. So I want to make sure that the wet ingredients are thoroughly mixed into the dry. In fact, it might even be better to mix these separately in a bowl. And I'm concerned, yep, there's a lot of flour in the bottom that's kind of clumping there that I'm not able to really mix in very well. So I'm having to really check the bottom corners. Okay. Oops. Realize something. I can make this a little less chunky. There we are. All right. So that seems pretty even at this point. So I've got something really the consistency of like a cocoa, hot chocolate mix. But as you can see, there are no lumps. There's no discoloration. There's no slight white bits or darker brown bits. So I'm pretty happy with that. And to this, I'm going to add, what am I going to add? 2 tablespoons vegetable oil and 2 tablespoons of water. All right. So I've got some veg oil. The wrapper is falling off here. The nice thing is I can kind of reuse this if I'm going to be pouring it. We're going to add 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil. You need some fat in your brownies. 1, 2. And then I'm actually going to grab some filtered water. My water is very, it doesn't taste very good without filtering. So there's 1 tablespoon and 2 tablespoons of water. And we're going to mix that. So I've got this very uneven thing here. And we're going to mix that together, mix that around. Again, using the fork, because I'm assuming that fork can get in all the little spots. Normally, I'm a little worried with any sort of dough that I don't want to over-mix, but the instructions were saying if you get this uneven, then it just does not taste very good. You get big clumps of flour and baking soda and such. So you really want this thoroughly mixed. And sure enough, you can see there are some dry things here. And this fork is not doing fairly well. Yeah, the thing is, if I mix this separately, I could also oil down the mug a little bit. But, all right, so I'm just sort of grabbing this and spinning it and trying to get this completely evenly mixed. And I think at this point, I'm there. I'm not seeing any more little bits of cocoa powder here and there, which I'm now incorporating in. And now it's pretty even. A little bit more in there, trying to get it out. Okay, so now what I've got is this very consistent sludge. I'm trying to knock that off. It does drip off with some effort. And let me grab a knife to get the last bits of that off. There we go. No sense in wasting it. All right. I'm just kind of tamping that down because I'm assuming we want it fairly even. And then just wiggling that around a little bit. Because if this starts with a lot of peaks and valleys, it's not going to cook very well. Right? Some parts will rise and some won't. And in fact, I'm going to go ahead and wipe down some of the sides of that. Right? So I don't get a bunch of, chunks that are sort of dried on the edges there. All right. That's our concoction. Let's see what happens. The instructions say, once that's in there, microwave on high for 1 minute roughly. Brownie should be wet in the center when done. Okay? I'm going to go for 60 seconds. So as a reminder, that was 4 tablespoons flour, 4 tablespoons sugar, 2 tablespoons of cocoa powder, 2 tablespoons of oil, 2 tablespoons of water, and a pinch of salt. All of the dry ingredients went together, mix those up, added the wet ingredients, mix those in until really, really uniform, and then we're microwaving for a minute. And again, I have no idea how this is going to turn out. Where are my spoons? I have a spoon around here somewhere. That's strange. I'm going spoons. Any skews there? I must have put it somewhere else. I must have been using that or something. 1 second. I must have a spoon here somewhere. It's not over there. It's not back here. Spoon! Spoon! Hello? Spoon! Spoon! Not here. Spoon! Spoon! Spoony, spoon, spoon. Ah! Spoons! There is a spoon. I'm just going to clean that real quick. In fact, while I'm at it, so we're done with the brownie, maybe. And while I'm at it, I'm just going to go ahead and clean off the knife and fork. I might as well just clean that up. One thing I like about this recipe is that it's using so few ingredients. This is my first time trying this, by the way. I've tried microwave brownies before. This is my first time with this specific recipe, and we'll see what happens. And if we really hate it, I might make another one. Because I certainly have enough ingredients. But I kind of like to get this right and figured out. Okay. Let's see what we got. Open the microwave. They said it should be wet in the center, and so presumably it will kind of come together. Yeah, so that, as you can see, maybe, let's lower the camera a bit. Ooh, that's kind of fluffy. It's a little wet in the center, but it looks pretty dry around the outside. Dry off a spoon. Yeah, and it's dry around the outside. So then does it say anything about how long you have to wait to try the thing? Wet in the center when done. It's done. Let it cool. Grab a spoon and dig in straight from the mug. Okay. We need to let this cool for a moment or two because it is volcanic. I can just feel from the side of the mug. Like I can't hold on to that for more than a few seconds. And meanwhile, we'll just dry off a few things. It smells good. It does have that slightly burned smell you often get with brownies if they've been in a little bit too long. So it's possible that I made it slightly too long for this. And our tablespoon, get nice and dried. And go right back in the drawer when we're done. I do like to kind of clean up as I go, as much as possible. Okay. It hasn't really dried up much in the past few moments. I'm gonna give it a whirl. So I'm putting in my, ooh, there's our consistency. That's pretty good. That's pretty brownie-like. Interesting. It's fudgy. It's definitely, you know, if you like a fudgy brownie, this is more what you're looking for. But there is a slight cakiness to it, too. Sometimes those fudgy brownies are very dense. And this is certainly fairly dense, but it still has some of that lightness, that airiness. Very chocolatey. I get that in spades. It's interesting because it's definitely dense, and it's not going anywhere in this mug. You can see that's a pretty hefty hefty food stuff. I could wait a little while longer to eat that, but it's nice and smooth. Smooth mouthfeel. But it's odd. I like a slightly more spongy, a slightly more cakey brownie. I generally like fudgy brownies. But this is dense enough. I think I prefer something a little bit lighter. So perhaps, how would I do that? I'm going to just add some baking powder to this. You know, just leaven it. Give it some leavening. So that might be worth trying. You certainly will not need much. Heck, let's try it. I'm going to use... I don't think these are... Might be, I know this is microwave safe. This is a taller one. And we'll give this a whirl. So, let's see what happens. So we need... Whoops. Let me weight down the countertop a little bit. I have some water here. And water and flour tend to create stuff that's not very easy to clean up. It's definitely not brownies, the result of that. Okay. So we need 4 tablespoons of flour. 1, 2, 3, 4. Clean that off. Then we need, I'm going to need another new bag of sugar. 4 tablespoons of sugar, probably. 1. This is also very sweet, so you could probably go a little lighter on the sugar. Like this is right at that level where some people would call it too sweet. Like it's okay for me. I don't think it's terrible by any stretch, but I can see some folks going, "Whoa, that's sweet." So as an FYI. And then 2 tablespoons of our cocoa powder. 1, 2. Now I have no idea how much baking powder to use. But when I'm making other doughs and such, I'm not using a lot. I'm not using tablespoons by any stretch. Should we try like a quarter of a teaspoon? Let's try it. So this is a quarter of a teaspoon of baking powder. I'm going to go a little generous on that. And then we'll add a pinch of salt. And I can already tell that a pinch of salt does help. There's a intensity to the flavor of this. I also need some milk. I guess it's crying out for some milk. Okay. Milk is life. Oh yeah, okay. So that's the dry ingredients. Let's take our fork and mix those together. Again, we've got this sort of variety of stuff in here. We want this nice and evenly mixed. And I'm looking to not only mix the top, but also occasionally going down and scraping down the very bottom of the mug. So even in that corner, right? And making sure that I'm incorporating that, because you'll tend to get some flour, I'm now seeing, caught down there. Okay. And then we'll keep on mixing that, trying to spin it so it's all nice and even. Alright. So that looks pretty even to me. Cool. More brownie, please. Okay. Now, we need, in order to clean this out, because I'm going to be just pouring into it, 2 tablespoons vegetable oil, 1, 2, and 2 tablespoons of water. Nice that this is so even. You know, it's just 4 tablespoons, 4 tablespoons, 2 tablespoons, 2 tablespoons. That's something I really like about this recipe. So we have all this gunk in here. Let's go ahead and mix that nice and completely. Huh. There we go. There we are. There was a pocket of dry in there. So it was very wet there for a little while. I was like, huh, this is feeling much goopier than the earlier version, but now that that's popped. And again, I'm going down to the very bottom and making sure that all of that, anything at the bottom is getting mixed back up. I want this very nice and even. And we said this is maybe a slightly overcooked, so I'm going to try 50 seconds on this one. Get all that down in there. Again, we'll use a knife to scrape off the excess. I do like to normally, lick the batter, that kind of stuff, but on this, I'm just not really feeling it. Okay, get that down there. And like we said, I'm gonna wipe down the sides. Not all the way. I'm not trying to get this pristine, but I'm just trying to get, most of the top of that cleaned off. Because this should rise a little bit in there anyway, which I saw it did. So, 50 seconds. I don't think I've got anything. 50 seconds. Let's lid that up. And as before, we'll real quick rinse out, well, actually wash out with soap and water our implements. That's done. Our fork is clean, and our knife is now clean. Cool. And besides clean, our knife is now dry. Our fork is now dry. That's done. Oh, a little speck of something there. Okay. And our tablespoon is now dry, which is all we use. Actually, no, we use the, I forgot. We also use the quarter teaspoon, right? Need to clean that off. 1 second. Get that done. You want to clean all the bits and pieces of this. Pretty important. Because I don't want the next time I use this, and I go to use a quarter teaspoon, to have there be some baking powder in there, and I'm actually making something that does not use baking powder. And suddenly things are reacting in unexpected ways. That's bad. Alright? Let's check our mug. Alright, so there's definitely a wet spot in the middle. I'm going to kind of probe that. That's pretty wet. And the rest of it is pretty... Alright. I'm going to leave that. I'm going to let that be. So you can see this glistening, shiny bit. Almost like pudding there. And I'm going to leave that. A little bit more of this original. Remind myself. It has not risen noticeably. So I may need some more baking powder in there. But obviously we also need some time to let that figure itself out. Also cat. I like to, when I'm doing stuff in the kitchen, kind of put lids back on things fairly soon and kind of close things up, because as you're cooking, there's a tendency to have stuff spray around, and flour goes here and sugar goes there as you're mixing things around. And I don't want to accidentally get some flour into my baking powder, for example. And just cross-contaminate things, because again, next time I use baking powder, it might be in something that doesn't use flour. And so that's going to be a problem. Milk. Okay, how are we on heat? I need a little bit longer, but I'm not displeased thus far. Oops. This definitely looks like brownies. Yeah, maybe we just need like half a teaspoon. So let's just go ahead and pour in. I'm not going to eat this right away necessarily. I just want to see. Ooh, no. Okay, that isn't cook very much. So it's very wet on the inside. So I'm actually going to put this back in for another 15. We need the extra because it's now cooled down a little bit. So it needs. I'm going to try another five seconds. Excuse me. To kind of push it a little bit further. See if that kind of finishes it off. I might actually do a bit more than that. Yeah, another 5. Okay. It's still pretty wet. Can't really see that very well, but we'll let that sit for a little bit. And of course, adding the baking powder might have changed the properties of that. Cooking is chemistry. We are causing chemical changes in a batter, in a dough, causing it to rise, to expand. We're adding leaveners to introduce air into things. It creates chemical reactions, and so that's one of the things you kind of have to be aware of. The baking powder isn't necessarily activated. It needs something else in there to activate. I remember hearing about that. It needs like a buttermilk or something. Otherwise it doesn't actually cause any rising. That could be the thing. Okay. But let's check this. How... Okay, it's still very wet. Lava. But it does look a little more cakey. Kind of hard to judge. But that looks a little bit more like a cakey thing. See on this side of the spoon, which is a little bit more like a cakey brownie or a piece of cake. But that's still just incredibly hot. Seems to taste the same. It does feel a little lighter, but that could just be my imagination. That could be me reading into it. Hard to tell. Cool. But the important thing being that the base version of this, so this is success. Get a good sized brownie out of it with almost no work. I'm making a note here. Huge success. Cool. All right. That is brownies in a mug. Again, 4 tablespoons flour, 4 tablespoons sugar, 2 tablespoons cocoa powder, pinch of salt. Mix them up, all nice and even. Then add 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil and 2 tablespoons of water. Mix them up, microwave for 1 minute. You would certainly not want flavorful oils in here. If you use like a peanut oil, This would taste like peanuts, which might not be a terrible thing, actually. Like safflower oil, other things can impart a certain flavor to things, corn oil. So you'd want something fairly neutral like a vegetable oil. Finish off a brownie with a nice tall glass of cold milk. Mmm. Mmm. Good stuff. Thank you for watching. That'll be it for this week. Until next time, make something.